possible to enjoy optimal health without eating enough fiber. So 95% of people are just stuck wondering what to do next. Meanwhile, fiber is such an inexpensive way to feel better and have your body perform better. You know, no one's outside the White House saying, we want more fiber, we want more fiber. You know, they want everything else except fiber. Everyone take a deep breath in and let it out. So what I really want to do is want to show you that we have to really take charge. And I think taking charge is not necessarily talking about the patient as much as taking care of yourself. You know, if I came to your office and said, let's get you in shape. No, don't get me in shape. Get my team in shape. Or don't get me in shape, get my spouse in shape. Or get my kids in shape. You know, where's the best place to start? What did Aldous Huxley say? The best place if you want to get started with revolutionizing your whole life is start where? Yourself, for sure. So when I think of releasing the inner warrior, when I think of releasing everything you want to be and achieve and do more and have more energy and make a bigger impact on the planet, and really be able to release everything you want to become. Everyone set up a second. We're just going to do a nice little movement here. So everyone stand up. We're going to do a little yoga. Anyone doing yoga? Okay, everyone stand up. We're going to do warrior one. We're going to move powerfully here. Take a deep breath in and let it out. Okay, you're going to put your left foot forward. You're going to flex your glutes. One left foot forward, right foot back. Both hands to the ceiling. Flex out your hands, feeling powerful. Flex them, make them active. This is called warrior one. And then lift it up this way. Now we're going to do warrior two. You're going to slide out your right foot, with your left foot forward, leaving your left foot back, and this is called warrior two now. So your left hand is forward, your right hand is back. This is the pull of the future, right? Pull of the future, and this is the pull of the past. I want to get in shape, but a personal trainer is expensive. I want to eat vegetables, but is it organic or frozen? You know, my biggest excuse is time, but I realize exercise gives me more time. I can taste it. Visualize an apple. Channel your best Emma Stone, Robert De Niro, Leonardo DiCaprio. Pretend you have an apple, not an apple fritter. Bite. Other foot forward. So have your right foot forward, flex your glutes, warrior one this side. Feeling powerful, mobilizing all 600 muscles, 206 bones, 360 joints, and now slide that foot forward. This is warrior two. Feeling the pull of the future and what you want more of, and you pull of the past. Pull of the future, I can taste being in shape. I can taste it. I want to feed my microbiome. But I have no time. I don't know how to cook. I wish I had a cook. I can taste that apple. I can taste it. Channel your best Emma Stone, your best Leonardo DiCaprio. Take a bite. Give three people a high five and say, I've released my inner warrior. One more. We're gonna stay standing. We're gonna stay standing. We're gonna relieve my African leprechaun roots. You're gonna bend your knees, index finger to thumb. The lion's breath is one way to increase your chi, your prana, your energy. It's after lunch, right? We're feeling a little fatigued. Tongue out, I'm gonna pant 7 times. Try it, okay? 7 times. Close your eyes. Take your right hand, put it over your heart. Feel that beautiful heart beating. It started beating 5 weeks after conception. 86,000 times a day. Beating so hard, thousands of gallons of blood every day. A big part of, though, is taking charge of your environment, is taking care of yourself first. But what I've shared with you is nothing really new. I've reminded you of things you know already. So all in favor, in the next 24 hours, taking action on something that has resonated with only 110 trillion cells, say aye. Aye. Okay, motion carried. Have a seat. Feeling good.
A leader in the healthcare community in Georgia, Southeast, and in the nation. I'm very grateful that Russ has taken the time to come here and be with us and moderate this session on Run Policy. Russ, you introduce your panel.
I tell you what, while we're getting set up here, if you would do me a favor, get up and meet someone you don't know. Just introduce yourself and don't cheat. Introduce yourself to someone you don't know. As uncomfortable as that may be. Oh, me too. I'm going to try.
I got to know everybody. That was a good
Grab your attention. I think we're all set. I just wanted to say welcome and thank you, Dr. Batu, for having me. I look forward to the opportunity, not so much to moderate, but to share a little bit of background and what we'll do in terms of format. I'll give you a little bit about my background, passion. And when you have the passion to do something, I think that finding the resources to enable you to really allow those passions to bloom are incredible and incredibly important. And I think that the way in health that many things are funded, oftentimes through government or other agencies, through academia, grants, through private corporations and philanthropy. And what we're really trying to do is to present a few different ways, particularly for not just those that are in the audience today, but those that are watching and seeing this much later on. Ways to be innovative and creative in terms of keeping your message about who you are, which is what each of you just did, telling one another who you are, what you did, and why it's important. It was a little bit uncomfortable initially. You all just kind of sat there and like, what? I really got to go meet somebody? Yeah, go meet somebody. I have to tell them what I do? Yes, tell them what you do. And that at scale is really what we're talking about here. So what I would like to do, I know each of our panelists have presented, put together presentations rather, and would really like to provide an opportunity to listen to each of those and then spend a few moments at the end with Q&A. So with that, Lena, would you like to start us off and give us a little bit about your background and your presentation? Thank you.
Hi, my name is Lena Yacoub. I'm one of the cardiology fellows at Louisiana State University. I'm really excited and honored to be here to talk about healthcare disruptions, advocacy, and role of legislations. Thank you, Dr. Latou, for inviting me to this conference. I have no disclosures. And I'm actually going to talk about my experience at the ACC, American College of Cardiology Legislative Conference, which is a conference that is held every year around October. And I participated in the one in 2018. And just to tell you about the experience, this is a meeting that is organized by the PAC, the Policy Advocacy Committee section at the ACC. And they basically pick a team of at least 3 members. It has to involve ACC governor of each state, and a cardiology faculty and a fellow. And this is a meeting of 3 days. 2 days consist of basically lectures and workshops on issues that matter to the college and for patients' care. And the third day, we head to the Senate and the White House and discuss these issues with senators and their representatives, and basically discussions on bills and how to impact these legislations. During our meeting, there were several issues we discussed during our discussions with initially among the team and then later with the senators and the representatives. The main issues were the issue of prior authorization, and these prior authorizations on medications and on cardiac images. And we discussed not only how these affect our daily practice, we discussed cases from real world, how these issues really impacted patients' care and led to adverse events in our patients. That was one of the issues. The other issue was the EMR, electronic medical record, and how much physicians put effort and time in documentation and the electronic medical records, and how this comes at the expense of patient-physician relationship and take of the time that physicians put into the patient care. And we discussed how we can decrease the requirements, at least from insurance policies, and how to decrease the burden on the physicians from that standpoint. We also discussed cardiovascular research funds and how these, how we have ongoing efforts on research projects and how to get funds from the state level and from the national level. In addition to these national issues, we discussed local issues. At least from Louisiana part, we discussed the epidemiology of obesity, diabetes, hypertension, how to do some projects on the local level in Louisiana with the senator and the representatives. So after that was a 3-day meeting. Some of these bills were already proposed to the Senate, but they had less than 40% approval. After the meeting, after the 3 days, the results, actually the approval went on some of these issues, not all of them, to around 70% approval. And these include the cardiovascular research funds, which the college was really happy about. I know that not only the ACC, the American College of Cardiology, I know other societies also are putting efforts in the advocacy, including American College of Physicians, American Academy of Neurology, American College of Surgeons. So take-home messages, advocacy for our patients, for our college, for our profession, can be practiced and should be practiced at all levels, including at our level, physicians in training, up to faculty, ACC governors, and ACC presidents, society presidents. Always start with your local institution, with your local society, and reach out, ask them what efforts has been done before and how you can add and contribute more to the advocacy efforts. And you'll be surprised when you contact the representatives that they also are excited and enthusiastic and want to help to provide better care for our patients. That's all I have. Thank you.
I think, you know, a big lesson here is there are a lot of voices out there, and yours needs to be heard. Each of you have different specialties, Each of you have different interests, and there are a lot of people with competing interests going to your policy holders. And I think the importance of making sure that your voice is heard as dollars are being budgeted is just critical.
Thank you very much. All right, I have 5 minutes. So briefly, I'm here with the hat of Editor-in-Chief of Idrak Medicine, and I'll talk to you a little bit about it. And I am also from Jordan. First, I want to thank Dr. Latouf for this kind invitation. All right, so a lot of people know Jordan. Whenever I say Jordan, they think about Petra. They think about the desert. They think about the tourism. But I also want to tell you that Jordan is also, in addition to being an educational powerhouse, it's also a great startup hub. A lot of ideas come from Jordan, and there's a lot of support from legislators for those ideas. All right. Does anybody know who this person is? Okay, that's Queen Rania. Queen Rania is very big on education. She is all about education. So she had an idea, and why don't we educate everybody, especially with the resources of the internet and resources that we're having right now. So in order for that to happen, she managed to get a team of very experienced and excellent people with great backgrounds, and they thought about a website that has that can cover all topics from social to medical to everything. Managed also to get funding and created Idrak. So Idrak in Arabic means achievement. It can also mean cognition. It can also mean understanding. And what it is that it's free online education, and it is in Arabic. Some of our speakers in the previous presentation spoke about how there aren't that many resources available in Arabic for Arabic-speaking people, and that is true. Not everybody can speak English. Not everybody has the ability to learn in English, and there are so many people who are left uncovered. What we have in Idrak is that we are covering all topics. And recently managed to have also covering topics for education in schools from 1 to 12. I was among the lucky people who had a course on Idrak, on the first one on healthcare. I called it Healthy Hearts, and the idea started from there to why not create and start with medical education online. To start it there so that it will be available for all the Arab world and all the Arab-speaking medical students all over. Dr. Najwa mentioned something about the atrocities, unfortunately, that are happening in a lot of Arab places. I personally can talk about, from my own experience, dealing with medical students in Libya. I participated in some of the online education and I gave some cardiology lectures for medical students in Libya who lost their medical school, lost a lot of things. So this online education can fulfill something very needed. So Idrak at some point got the attention of so many international organizations. We started off from a few thousand to right now there are more than 2 million people learning in Idrak. Right now they work closely with international organizations. I said Google. This is a picture of Jack Ma. So Idrak is really going great places. In the couple more minutes I have, let me tell you a little bit about Idrak Medicine. Idrak Medicine is the project that we are starting to put all the medical education that we know online, starting from the basic sciences, ending up in clinical. The first stage would be just learning through medical cases, and this has gotten the support of Idrak and Her Majesty's Foundation, and we are hoping to release this sometime at least phase 1 sometime over the summer. This is probably one of the success stories in the Arab world. Sometimes it's easier to have an idea materialize in the Arab world than in the US. There's one thing, for example, in this morning when they mentioned the website with all the videos. We don't have a lot of complexities in the Arab world, the whole medical legal system and the complexities that we have here in the US. So sometimes if you have any idea, it is possible to achieve it in countries such as Jordan, where leadership is very supportive and they will provide a lot of the logistical support and all of that stuff. A small country like Jordan managed to get this great project and got the support and the attention of organizations like Google and Jack Ma and all these, whereas rich countries with great resources have not been able to achieve something like this. And that's all. Thank you.
Great. I think that goes to show the power of partnerships and the need to really continue to share stories and get those messages out there. Sean?
All right, so I was supposed to give a talk today, but I have to run and go and exercise. My gut microbiome is in terrible. In fact, what happened is that I had to go after your talk. I had to bribe my colleagues here and gave them all my mushrooms. Mushroom tour. Anyway, so I want to thank you and all the organizers for the opportunity to talk today. My take on this is to ask a question that we often ask and we don't have an answer to. So to start, my name is Hisham Drisi. I am a PhD who works in orthopedics. I spent all my career working in the field of orthopedic research, and I joined Emory about 2 years ago to be Vice Chair of Research, and today what I want to share with you is whether or not there is a formula to build a research program in a clinical department. And the reason behind this question is because we keep on hearing that the physician scholar or the clinician scientist is an endangered species, and I would like to hopefully convey to you that that's not true. It's far from being true, and get you excited a little bit. So is there a formula for success, for a successful multidisciplinary research program? This is, the answer to this question is dependent on if you look at the glass half full or half empty. So when I joined Emory, I wanted to build a program because I was more interested in having a robust research multidisciplinary program rather than building my own laboratory. There is great satisfaction from having your own laboratory, but also building a program with other colleagues is very important. And so when I came to interview, I identified an opportunity for growth in the Department of Orthopedics that has extremely powerful strengths in multiple subspecialties clinically, but the model of the research was mainly focused on certain aspect of research rather than a multidisciplinary research endeavor. And so the first thing that I had done was to look at the culture of this department and try to see what are the strengths and the weaknesses of the department. And I finally realized that actually the number of strengths were outweighing the weaknesses, and what my first inquiry turned into was the opportunity of the century for me. Then after that, it's important to come up with a strategy that will fit current culture here, especially at Emory. So Emory is a premier institution with a very strong track record in education, in patient care, and of course in research. And so the question was, how can we make musculoskeletal research a little bit more prominent than it was? So the first thing that was important to do is to have a plan of action, and so number one is to build a strong base, and the next one is to maximize the success of this base. And so in terms of building a strong base, we needed to be able to get the expertise that we didn't have before. And so one of the things that attracted me to this department is the immense energy that junior faculty clinicians who wanted to do research and who were needing partners to be able to ask questions for seeking funding and being able to pay for that research. Also, the idea that we came up with was that if we did a synergistic pairing between a clinician and a PhD, or multiple clinicians and a PhD, we would be able to actually ask new questions beyond the clinical research that was already prominent in the department, with the common understanding that while we're pushed towards doing translational research, reverse translation is equally important for PhDs to be able to ask relevant questions that will have an impact on the patient population. And so the idea also was that we shouldn't have anyone left behind, and so in multiple departments, especially those that have different subspecialties, you will find areas of research where one subspecialty is stronger than others, and there are some specialties where there is no research at all. And so one of the ideas was to create a robust, both clinical and basic fundamental research for every one of our subspecialties. So since then we have hired multiple PhDs, but also came up with this idea to ask people when they interview after their fellowship what their interest in research was. And so there's a little bit of a taboo to say, I am a fantastic clinician, and not talk too much about the research. And so we thought that it was very important to encourage these physician scientists to actually talk also about their research in order for us to move this forward. So funding sources, as you can imagine, are going to be of three different sources. Number one is internal, and that's for us was very important to build a platform, and so internal funding from the university as startup packages was crucial in order for us to build the program. But also extramural funding and philanthropic funding are the next sources of funding once that commitment from the institution is going to run out. So, of course, the institutional commitment is going to be based on the expertise of the leadership, and so that's very important. But if the vision is not laid out, the amount of resources are not going to be mobilized in order for the program to actually succeed. And so one should always keep in mind, and in my case, it was very important for me to be able to recruit for PhD based on scientists, based on the young MDs that were also in our department that were looking for partnerships. And that was something that I was able to successfully convey to the leadership and be able to obtain funding for. The commitment from the institution also gives a chance for starting a program based on the identified strengths rather than focusing on the weaknesses, and I think that that's very important. Federal funding is key for multiple reasons, as you know. Having federal funding is a matter of prestige, but it also gives the science that we're doing, the validity that it deserves in terms of the fact that it's peer reviewed, and so being recognized by your peers is extremely important. And so that is a metric that most institutions are going to follow. So, but that comes also with an issue, which is scarcity of funds and anxiety that will come from there. And so as clinician scientists, it's important to find ways to actually not have to deal with that funding anxiety while you're trying to start a laboratory or a research endeavor, because then you're less productive, or you can end up not wanting to even actually continue in your research. The last point I want to discuss here is philanthropy. And so I will tell you a little anecdote. I'm a stem celler by training, and my institution has been interested in developing stem cells for therapy, and I was asked to participate in a meeting with a big donor to talk about musculoskeletal. And so we had this meeting with this very big, large donor, and everybody spoke, and everybody was from cancer, cardiovascular. And so I started by saying, now that you've heard everything about the business of death, you're going to hear about the business of comfort. And so what we do for a living is to try and make people's lives more comfortable. And so this is how we initiated this conversation. The reason why I'm telling you this is because philanthropy is based on relationship, and being able to establish that relationship is extremely important. From there, we were able to initiate a large program in which we're going to be able to use stem cells for cartilage restoration, and that has yielded a phenomenal opportunity, not only for us as a department, but also to collaborate with other places in the country. So I'm going to stop here because I'm on time, past the time. I'll take some questions.
Thank you very much. I want to open it up for questions, but thank you to each of our presenters. I think that was a great job, and really underlined at the end of the need for those relationships is not when you need those relationships. The need is ahead of time, and to build those relationships with people that you don't know. And sometimes that's uncomfortable, and you have to do that at the federal level. You have to do that with partners, whether you have an opportunity, a wonderful opportunity, as we learned about in Jordan, but also extending that to industry partners. Fantastic opportunity with federal government funding, but extending that over to philanthropic funding. So the need for accessing these resources, I'll start with those relationships, and want to thank again everyone for taking the time to share each of those. We'll open up for a few moments of questions, and then Dr. Kelly, I believe you're next.
At least I have a question for you. So I think pairing is a very good idea, without making a lot of long comments on this. But so you asked fellows to say what's their interest, and you hired faculty to match those interests. Would it be better if you go for topic and hire for a focused cluster hire, or?
Right. So the way we did this was first identify our clinical strength, and so that came up with a theme. So we have specific areas where there was not only a critical mass of clinician scientists that were already having a very robust clinical research enterprise going, but also to be able to identify areas that we can bring innovation. And so the talent that we were looking for would be talent that would match naturally with what was already existing. That was the strategy. And when I talk about pairing, it's not really one person with one person. It's mainly thinking about people that could look, for example, in sports medicine at osteoarthritis from various perspectives. And so having a new hire who's a researcher, who's a bench researcher, realize what other opportunities are also available to be able to engage the physician scientist is also key.
So, Dr. Rajir, there is a group of physicians, surgeons actually, in West and Central Africa. The guy in charge of it came and gave a lecture. He wanted help in one way or another. They started a whole education program, board certification, education, everything you can think of between the surgeons, because those countries are extremely poor and they don't have the resources. On Telegram, on Telegram, it's like WhatsApp, but the difference you can put thousands of people on any app. And it's working well. Actually, they have about 85% graduation. And he gave a very great lecture about that. So people trying to do that in the Middle East, especially in countries that are considered poorer than others, it's a good way of doing it. I mean, you don't need resources, you don't need websites, you don't need anything. You need a manager for the website. Even the exams are done on Telegram. The exams are done on Telegram. And there's a way. So it's a great idea if somebody wants to take it and move with it.
That's a great idea. That's a great example, as you mentioned. If after this, I'd be happy to learn more about that. If you can provide me with the number.
One of the surgeons who's a
that.
transplant is part of that group. I will get you the information, connect you to
Yeah, absolutely. We're always happy to partner with other organizations or anybody who's interested in online education to help our people in the Middle East and Africa or anywhere in the world.
Who's funding the whole program? Is it by the Jordanian government?
No, it's not by the Jordanian government. It's actually, initially, it was funded by several parties. Some of them was from the Mashiach Abu Dhabi, from what I recall. But later on, funding became from different parties, and recently there was from Google, support from Google that was provided to Iraq.
Is it? Are there any advertisement throughout the whole website, or is it just?
There's social media. That's the best way to reach people in the Middle East. Facebook has more than, I think, 2.5 million people on there. The actual people who signed up for it were also exceeding a million.
So subscription based, basically.
Yeah, it's free. It's 100%
It's
free.
free, but
You just go there and you
register.
sign up to the course you like, and at the end of the course, they give you a certificate. And this started off with only a few lectures on there, and you get a certificate in there. But later on, it expanded, and now it exploded to like math. A lot of courses on there. They're including like math and things like this on the website.
Can you contribute to that website?
Absolutely. Anybody who's interested, at least from my standpoint, at Rock Medicine, that's the part where I can talk about most. If anybody who's interested to contribute with lectures or anything like that, we're always happy to have and to make new partnerships with people from there. Most of our lecturers on there are volunteer based, like myself. You'll be surprised how easy it is to find people who are willing to contribute to the Arab world and willing to volunteer their time in order to help out.
Right. So we'll connect.
Absolutely. Anybody who's interested, more than happy to. Dr. Najwa.
I just wanted to mention at this point that much of this, of course, is not necessarily geared to the Jordanian population. In Jordan, we do have 4 medical schools, and they are all in-house medical schools. In fact, Muhammad was one of us at the University of Jordan at some point, and I'm very glad we have phenomenal students. So this is really supplementing what we are doing in person. So I think much of this is, of course, geared to not necessarily in Jordan, because really Jordan, we have Mu'ta, we have Yarmouk, we have Salt, we have Irbid has another medical school. So really we have a lot of in-person medical schools. And so at the present time, I think it would be great to evaluate, Muhammad, since you're doing both, to evaluate the following. Oftentimes, when I discussed medical education earlier and to have online, I had in mind more than lectures. And in all honesty, I would love to see it an interactive type deal, whereby you can have a patient in, let's say, Dir Allah. And in Dir Allah, they call up and say, I have this patient who is very, very sick. Muhammad, please read for me the EKG. Tell me if there is something. This is what I had in mind in Jordan for the telemedicine part.
Telemedicine.
Because I think, and I hope that Her Majesty would think along the next step. Because at the present time, we're doing primary lectures. At least in Jordan, there is sufficient, of course, this is not only for Jordan, Idrak is for all over. But for Jordan itself, we do have the actual teaching on underground. But what we don't have is people who are in practice and who have difficulty managing cases. As you know, we have a lot of people who studied medicine in, let's say, in Italy or in India, and they are now manning the different health centers. And maybe that's where perhaps we can sit down together and see how we can activate that component. And that would be a great
Absolutely.
idea.
I think that's a very...
Yeah.
Yes, and this is part of the object of Idrak medicine,
Yeah.
is to kind of introduce the guidelines, the international guidelines, into Jordanian practice or into the Arab practice, so that somebody who is working in a small, tiny clinic in a destitute area of Jordan, or somewhere in like
Any of the Arab worlds.
yes, or somewhere in Syria, in like a village there. They all have at least know the certain guidelines, the international guidelines that are done, all by just attending a course online, and it's for free, and it's all case-based. So it's not, we try not to do it boring like lecture for them. It's just a case that was treated like this. Another case was treated like this, and this is a little discussion of the guidelines, exactly to what Dr. Najwa just mentioned.
May I ask a brief question?
Please, I think this is our last question for...
Dr.
we'll make an exception for you.
Dr. Drissi, the concept that you have shared with us.
Given to me by the Emory people, and having an amazing experience the last 2 years. And this is a talk which was given to me by Dr. Latif. Thank you for the opportunity. And my topic is something about a global scholars portal, which kind of overlaps with what Bakir and probably just spoke a few minutes back. It's similar because Emory has a rich culture in training Emory cardiac surgeons for the last 40 years, both domestic as international graduates. A lot of people had come here and graduated and have been settled all over the country and all over the world. And I think it's time to reap the benefits of this training process. And by setting up a global scholars platform or a portal, I think there's a wide spectrum of opportunities that's available in terms of the things I'm going to tell. One is you reach out to the alumni of any institute or of any specialty. It opens up a lot of opportunities for both the alumni as well as for the institute. Not only in terms of funding, but also in terms of mentorship or in terms of job opportunities or referrals, a lot of other things. And an alumni is the best ambassador for any institute. Obviously, we're not going to go and badmouth our own institute because that's not what we do. There's a mutual beneficial relationship between the alumni and the institution. And there's a learning opportunity in the future for healthcare at a global level when you reach out to people all over the world who are trained in one institute. And obviously there's a better sharing of current practical knowledge and in successful treatment of the patients. Before going there, like I said, how many of you, when I think when Havel asked how many of you had training or some kind of professional experience outside the US, I think 2/3 of people raise their hands. So I believe the healthcare or the practice around different parts of the world are in different ways. For example, a cost of a CABG or bypass surgery in the US is like 100,000 or 120,000 is what it's built for. But what we do in India is for like $2,500. We use the same 4 bypass grafts, we use the same instruments, same sutures, same thing, same heart, same bypass. But how can we do that for $2,500 when it's built for $100,000 in the US? that is one thing which we can share, our expertise. It's not like that thing, US is a first world country and India is a third world country, you cannot share or something like that. There should be an open mind for mutual understandings and mutual respect, and what we can learn from both the US and India or any other country in the world. And I think these portals might be an opportunity to open up all those questions and probably come as a solution at some point of time. I don't think it's going to be in the near future, but yes, I think we are looking forward to that. Like I said, people might ask, why do you need a portal? Like, you have a lot of apps in your phone. Like how many, on average, how many apps are there on your iPhones or Android phones? 10, 20? It's like, how many do you use regularly? Or you open it every day? I don't think many. Most of the things are like silent there forever. But then like, we have to find out an app where we are active and that you use it regularly, not every day just to entertain yourself as a social media, but this is to create a relationship between the global scholars in a professional way, that you discuss the patient care or the health care, and like, okay, how do you do it there? I want to do the same thing here. Or I'm doing the system things here, I think you should try it out and work it out for the betterment of the health care of the patients there all over the world in a more cost-effective and a most beneficial way. And when we are looking at this thing, we actually saw a lot of portals which are both web-based and mobile-based apps. And like I said, there are like 1,000 different apps. And startups are the new thing in the world. Everybody wants to do a startup to become a millionaire as soon as possible. But I think, so we have a lot of thousands of opportunities on the portals there, but then we need to choose the right portal for the right content what we are looking at. Like I said, the advantages of this thing is to discuss and compare the healthcare practices between institutions in the US and various hospitals in the world in your own specialty, not just like, okay, I'm a cardiac surgeon, I want to discuss about family practice. No, I can't. I'm not the specialist or the authority in that field, so I can't be in a group where everybody is there. I want a specialty or a special portal for myself and to discuss my own things. And that doesn't mean I need to have like 100 different portals or apps in my own phone. I need to decide about what to want. So in your own specialty, that's what we decided when Dr. Latif and we were talking, we just discussed, okay, for cardiac surgery, we don't have anything. It's a closed system, it's a closed people. Cardiac surgeons are the egomaniacs of the world. They don't care. They are public enemy number one in any hospital, I guess. That's how we don't. I think the infectious disease people hate us more than anybody else. Anyway. So when we thought like there are not many there is no communication between these egomaniacs. So everybody thinks it's my way or the highway. So I don't think it's beneficial for the patients in the world. For example, if I'm in India, if I want something which is in doubt, I cannot randomly call up some cardiac surgeon in the US and ask. But always in Emory, I cannot call Dr. Latif and ask something like that. So we need a portal where the cardiac surgeons relate to each other and then contact each other and are in talking terms regarding the beneficial relation to the patient there. And like I said, you can always refer your patients to the best professional you think that is the best for that kind of surgery, obviously. And it overlaps, like I said, Bakir's statement of professional mentoring and network. I also think that me and Bakir spoke that we don't need two different apps or portals for like this, for CMP and LMD. It should be a combined thing rather than like two different apps in the same phone. And the disadvantages of another portal, obviously there's a obvious subscription fee, which you have to like find the funding for, like Bakir said. I don't think we're going to get that in some time, but we might negotiate for that. And obviously, if you don't take it seriously, it's going to be another fancy icon on your phone for many years, and then like you're going to like when you buy a new phone, obviously it's going to change. And our scope of this idea is to begin with the cardiac surgery faculty first, and then the division first, and then try to expand it to different specialties. And then once you get a global network of healthcare providers, probably they'll be able to discuss more on how to discuss or how to cooperate in operating rooms or the healthcare things. My friend says there's only 1 minute left. I just got one slide left. That's it. So how is it different from anything? This portal is going to stick to one specialty alone, and it's going to be a combined learning and collaboration platform. Apart from the thing, to be a mentorship platform as well. And I don't want it to be treated as like just another social media. Okay, you want to like an app, you talk professionally for a week, and then after that, okay, you don't want to like think about social things. It should be strictly professional app. I don't want it to become like a Snapchat, WhatsApp, or like LinkedIn. I mean, if you see, there's a lot of LinkedIn's and ThoughtSummit, everything becomes a social app at some point of time. I think we should stick to it in a professional way, without any recruiters or without any ads or anything like that. Just strictly professional discussions there. Thank you for the opportunity.
All right, thank you to everyone. I think I'm very proud of actually Mike. We're all pretty much in training or going to training, and the fact that we're already thinking about how to give back to each other, I think that's a powerful thing. And that's why I'm proud to be part of this generation that has the humility to actually share their knowledge and their network. One thing also, I don't want to undermine the concept of like being present in person in the community. The reason I'm here because someone like Dr. Hatouf had the humility as a heart surgeon to call someone like me who was a high school student, tell him, hey, I heard about you, I want to help you out. That takes a lot of humility and power to do that. And I think that's a very powerful thing because most of us think like mentorship is difficult, requires a lot of time. I think mentorship is like just being present in a network. You know, like, okay, you have someone you can reach out to if you need something, but most of the time you don't reach out because you have that confidence of that person being in your neighborhood and connection. I think that's a very powerful concept. We should think about it. Anyone has any question about any of the presentation that one of my colleagues had? I want to share a reflection.
I have a confession to make. I am really not very good-hearted, as these gentlemen claim. And I am not very charitable, as they claim. Actually, I'm very self-serving. I'm very self-serving because to know Heval, Zaid, Bakr, and Ashok is a fabulous pleasure. I learn from them. They inspire me every day. They have tremendous energy. They have great ideas. I can say humbly, it really is a two-way street. And if I have to balance it out, I'm the one who's winning more than they are. That is how I feel about it. And I know each and every one of you here, as an educator, feels that way. And I go back to one of my most senior and beloved mentors, Abdul Salam, who taught me when I was a medical student almost 40 years ago. He used to give to each one of us. I think it is really the joy that we got. Thank you.
Dr. I'm going to elaborate a little bit about the mentorship. I want each one of you to reach out to NAMA because they established NAMA Next Gen, which is really people your caliber, your age, and it brings in a lot of a great platform. I mean, I speak because on behalf of the NAMA, not because I'm the president, but I believe in it, and Omar knows very well how all this organization is. Bring in this young and energy. It will bring a lot of tools that we could utilize in an existing platform instead of continue to search for a platform to create. So that mentorship program, it's very easy to implement within the organization. As a matter of fact, we can even find the fund for it if it needed to. So having your involvement, which will be an amazing, so I'm going to connect you with some young people that work with our chapter, maybe Humam will connect them together, and you guys can build a little bit of integrations into the next level of this. So that way it's at least it's moving along the way, and then it creates a little bit more of a whatever question comes out of it.
So I'm really sitting here, I go to many different organizational meetings. A lot of efforts are done in silos. Everybody think I'm doing that, nobody's doing it, or why the other guy not involving me. I think we people who are living in the US are in the best place to connect to our roots and also to advance here at the same time because we feel the pains of the people who are living there.
I can answer that. Back from before, like 2 years back when I was like practicing in India, I didn't know some stuff which we see what you have in the US. One of the biggest differences what I see here is the technology, be it in the cath lab, be it in the operating rooms, or be it things. And the one key difference, what I think, I do feel depressed at the point of time saying that, oh, I wish I had this kind of an equipment back home and was operating under the different circumstances. Yes, but I think the technology is catching up in some way or the other, because the world is becoming more connected these days. And although we still have a lag time between, like, be it in months or years before we see the same technology from the US to reach India because of the cost factor. Obviously, there's a lot of R&D in all these patents going there. Obviously, they don't want to, like, sell it for free. And obviously, a patient in India is paying out of pocket, and then he cannot spend like $100,000 to get the same technology on the same thing. So there should be some common medium or some collaboration with the companies there and the hospitals there, or like in a cheaper transition or transfer of the technology at a cheaper price there, which can help us there. Otherwise, it's still going to be depressed for some time.
Thank you. I just want to wrap up with one thing. And although I'm a former refugee and I come from the Middle East, a lot of my focus actually is America first. And the reason why it's important, I think, for me it's very hard. It's like, why should I go to Syria or Iraq and tell them how to do things if I haven't implemented something locally that's successful? I mean, we at Emory, a very special place. We're next to Clarkston City, which is the most diverse place in America right now, has a huge refugee immigrant population that's very underserved, undereducated, underrepresented. So if we want to do something internationally, we should always think about our underserved Americans and underserved immigrant population that don't have a privilege and network that need us to be there. I mean, a prime example, Abdullah, who is actually part of Emory now, he came here as a refugee 5 years ago, lives in Athens, Georgia, doesn't know any physician, has no network. He's the same person who's in Iraq with that network. So if we could focus on recruiting people like him to be leaders, they don't want to go back there and actually implement some of the ideas that were successful for them in this country. I think we should not forget about that when we think about international education, that our local investment is also very important to actually fight prejudice against immigrants and refugees. That's a very powerful tool that I'm noticing more and more. Because a lot of the Americans who don't have any international people say, what about us who are underserved and need also education and opportunities? So we can use our network and privilege to actually make a difference in the local community while we serve the international community at the same time. Thank you.
Part of this summit. I've known Dr. Latif over the years. My name's Imad Saba. I'm a practicing dentist. My hobby to do and interconnect with the different sectors. I'm an entrepreneur by nature. I enjoy different sectors of businesses, from healthcare to media to marketing to staffing. So I'm the president of our local NAMA Georgia here in Atlanta, and I'm going to be chairing our next national meetings here in Atlanta. So I'd love to have each one of you that's a physician or connected to the healthcare to be part of our convention. We're here to start a discussion about real-world media and healthcare, and I guess Dr. Latif put me for the last panel because I like to talk a lot. Maybe I can bring a little bit more energy by the end of the day. So we can start with our panelists, and then we're probably open for Q&A afterwards. But I would like to start for the panelists to introduce themselves.
Okay, thank you. Well, good afternoon. My name is Ghassan Al-Ragib. I'm professor in Georgia Tech. Thank you to Latif for inviting me. It's really nice to be in a room with many medicine profession. I feel really good because I have Haitham and Sam. I think Sam left already. Okay, so it's Haitham and me, although I'm not from this profession. I practice, I'm really an engineer, applied mathematician. We do research to advanced technology, and my area is really signal processing. That means what? It means pattern recognition, machine learning, artificial intelligence. And I have a picture there, says data. Data is a gold mine. And if you look at the medicine profession, the medical profession, what you have, expertise, really amazing skill sets, and data. And you have lots of data. And I just want to share a story. Let's really agree on some things. I'm not really here to convince you that 20, 30 years from now, we'll not really have medical doctors, we'll have only machines treating or doing surgeries. That's not the case. However, I think we'll have both. And I'm hoping at the end of my talk, just say basically can give you some kind of an incentive to embrace the machine learning, basically technology and what it will bring to your profession. So I want to really kind of define, I'm a professor, that's what I do, I teach, I do research. What is really artificial intelligence, what is machine learning? Many different definitions out there. Let's just agree on something. You have data, you want to get something out of the data. You have applied math algorithms to do that. That's machine learning. You want the machine to really give you something that's really faster than if you put a human being doing the same thing. And in the first few slides, I really kind of just give you a history of what's really machine learning. If you look at the neural networks, they have been around for more than 40 years. We have papers in our societies where from 1981, 82, we have these neural networks. The problem is we didn't really have the data and we didn't really have the computation power. What happened over the last 20 years, we have basically figured out, following the Moore's law, the computational power, the GPUs, the GPU clusters. So basically now we can do things really, really faster. We have very, very powerful computers. Look in your pocket and your phones. Look at that, basically how powerful that phone is. Imagine all these GPUs that we have in the labs. And the third thing is data. So this is really a very famous in machine learning called ImageNet. This is a huge data set. And the key in here is annotated, meaning that we have annotations, basically meaning that every single pixel in that image, we know it belongs to what? The sky, tree, car, background, foreground, the child, the human being, and so on. So this annotation is really that now we have some kind of ground truth to train our machines. Just to give you kind of, it's not really the size of the data that's really grown over the past few years, the quality of the data. So the images, if you look at 20 years ago, I started working on images and visual data in 1997. We had basically what they call the QSIF. It's very, very tiny. It's even basically like the old Motorola flip phone barely can show it. And now we have the high definition and 4K data. So the quality has really improved quite a bit. So that's really all good. We have data, we have machine, we know the math to do this. Then people really basically started to do this 15, 20 years ago. And we had amazing success story. And if you read basically just Google about AI, everybody just so excited about that, it will change everything. I think I really want us to be very realistic. That is not the case. There is a big hype happening. It has been very successful when it comes to linguistics. Translation of text, for example, classification of text, very specific task, very, very successful. When it comes to visual search, recognition, for example, a couple of years ago, we had the machine achieving an accuracy higher than a human being in detecting objects. But remember, this is a very specific task, recognition of an object. I have 4 subgroups, and we do really work with autonomous vehicles in Detroit, with healthcare, oil companies in Houston, and manufacturers, and each one of them, if you do it in the lab, it works really nicely, 97% accuracy, wonderful. Take it to the real world, it doesn't work. Like we do a lot, basically within Detroit, where our algorithms go to the track. In the lab, it works beautifully, go to the track, and then you have the glare from the sun, you have snow, and then suddenly your autonomous vehicle doesn't know where to go. So we have to be realistic, basically, the limitation of machine learning. And I think a message where those who are really very advocate of machine learning, artificial intelligence, they don't really talk much about robustness. But I think we are getting, at least in the research community, to the stage where let's be realistic about what we can and we cannot do. Some of you are familiar with the Gartner. This is for 2018. We have here innovation trigger, and here's some kind of inflated expectation, and that's where basically the network is right now. Meaning that basically we are at the height, at the peak of the hype. And really to get to the plateau in here, we need 2 to 5 years to get to where the technology is really going to embrace and effective in real life. And we believe that from our expectation, working on this area, that's more or less is the case. I know, like Ford, for example, they said next year they will have autonomous vehicle in Pittsburgh. I tell them good luck. I'm not really sure if I will be in Pittsburgh next year because I don't trust the technology personally. But that's basically, it's happening. But the time scale is really where I have a problem with. Just to give you an idea, for us in research, basically what we look at really money, startups, and papers. If you look at the number of papers in machine learning, artificial intelligence in the last few years, we are really getting, last year, for example, very close to 24,000 papers a year. That's a lot of papers. If you look at the number of startups, until 2015 it was north of 600. Actually, we reached 1,400 in 2018. Just AI startups related. And the investment is really peaking. So it's all this money, all this energy will get somewhere. It will have spill effect over every single profession that you can think of. It doesn't matter really agriculture, healthcare, education, marketing, advertisement, Netflix. Everything will be based basically in some way or the other on some artificial intelligence. So my recommendation, I have been really working heavily in 2011, I gave a speech to the oil companies in Houston to say, oil companies for the last 50 years, they really closed within their own bubble, meaning that they do their thing, they don't really listen to other technology. What really happened is that they are in a closed loop. They don't really have new ideas. Because if they need a bigger hammer, they have a bigger hammer, they have cash. So if you really need $100 million to really dig a well, you have the $100 million, $200 million. It's not a problem. And again, basically, machine learning will change your profession. It's happening. We have a new center, Geotech. We would like really kind of to help you out. I got hammered. I mean, everybody was telling me we'll never really use machine learning to replace our geophysicists and geologists. And then what happened after that? We had basically a dip in oil prices, right? 65% of their employees were fired. And now they're coming back to work. They only hired the last 2 years data scientists, people who really do machine learning, because that's basically we realize where the asset is. So my advice to any professor, I have been working with geophysics for the last 5-6 years, and I think it's really very important for the domain experts to really drive how machine learning will change your profession. So if you're a doctor, I think it should come from you, not from the tech companies. And I think that's really something very important. The earlier you do it and you embrace it as a profession, I think the better it is. Because if it comes from somewhere else, from other factors, I think that's really dangerous. And I see that in the oil companies. So these are questions people really ask. However, to me, the most important thing is, to you as a doctor, or as a geophysicist, or a geologist, how can machine learning help you in your work? How can it really improve what you are offering to other patients or customers and so on? And I think that's extremely important. So I cannot really answer this question for you. I think I'm here so I can listen to your answers. However, from our work, I think there was a video I think was removed somehow, right, in the slide. Let's see. So I have been working with Khalifa in Grady and Emory. He's a chief ophthalmologist in Grady. And we have been basically working on really kind of helping him in his clinic with artificial intelligence modules. So the idea is that instead of really a patient waiting for 4 to 5 hours to really get some testing done, why can't we do the machine learning, basically do that in actually we do this in 40 seconds. So in 40 seconds we get the testing, we go to the cloud, we do machine learning applied to it, and then the doctor basically has some kind of initial results about that. So these are different kind of ways where it can help. Every diagnosis, I think, is very, very important. Reducing the false positives. So if you have in the minute clinics and you have in the primary physicians, you have all these kind of machine learning just to have an initial diagnosis. We believe that from a business point of view, it will reduce the number of false positives going to some of the specialists like Dr. Lazar, for example. So I think that's something we believe that we will be able to help with. I will conclude basically with some kind of recommendations. You have the data. I know privacy is extremely important, and I truly believe that. I think there is really a long way to go about really having data available for somebody like me to really try new algorithms, at the same time protecting privacy. I think blockchain, and I think that's the message. Thank you.
cardiology and Kaiser Permanente. That is hard to follow. I mean, I'm just a simple plumber, you know. This guy's a rocket scientist. I mean, that's awesome. Wanted to thank Dr. Lattouf. You know, we talked about Larry Sinek earlier. I can see what his why is. Passion for education and collaboration, helping people. Wonderful, really wonderful work. Thank you. Let me see if I can move along to the next slide here. So, I wanted to, I work for Kaiser Permanente, and it's not about KP, but it's about telehealth. But I wanted to just tell you a little story to explain the why of why KP believes in telehealth and what telehealth means to us. There was a 1930s, late 30s, 40s, there was a surgeon in the deserts of California. He sees a bunch of people coming in, workers in a shipyard. And these workers have infections and they need amputations. He's trying to figure out how he's going to pay for this, keep his office running. And he meets up with George Kaiser, who's building ships for World War II. He really wants to get the workers working all the time, right? Wants them in, wants them sort of always around. And so come together a plan. Kaiser will pay Dr. Sidney Garfield, who's on the left, to basically take care of the shipyard workers, prepaid, and he says, I'll take care of it because I get the money and I'll take care of these patients. He realizes very quickly that instead of amputating these foots, maybe if he gets to the shipyards and picks up the nails so they never get infected, he saves from amputations. Kaiser is happy because the workers are working, pushing out ships, and Permanente and Kaiser are created. Why do I give you this story? Not because it's an interesting story, not because somebody paid me to do that, but the reason that's important is because there's bones, there's DNAs to this story that are important to telehealth. What are the three things that are important? One is population health. It is the key. We can do all the high-end stuff, but if we don't take care of the burgeoning populations in the Middle East and Africa, Sub-Saharan Africa and India, we are not really doing really good service, right? So it's population health. Number two, why telehealth? Because it's not about people coming to you into the ivory tower. It's us going to where they are, and that's telehealth, right? Because it's rural Georgia that people can't get to. We need to get there. So that's telehealth. That's why it's important. And finally, the finances have to work out the right way. And the way the system is set up, the finances sort of work out the right way. And this is why telehealth makes sense for the system. That I want to talk to you about. So the Kaiser program is set up. The Permanente Kaiser program is set up, and there's a paper out there from the organization, and I can go through what we are doing in current state. But philosophically, there are three aspects of it. There's virtual care, going to where the patients are. Number two, there is big data. So we follow 10 million people. That's lives we cover currently in the U.S. Right? We cover 10 million lives or more, and it's longitudinal care. We follow them for most of their lives, so we can see where it is, and it's diverse. Because Kaiser now is from Hawaii to Washington, D.C., from Seattle to Georgia. So it creates a diverse population, diverse in the U.S., geographically, culturally, and it's longitudinal. So it's big data, that's it. So virtual care, go to where they are, it's big data. And then the third part, which is essential, because remember, I'm talking about healthcare delivery. We've heard phenomenal lectures today about all the great tech, 5G to this or that. But if you can't deliver it to the people that need it, it doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter. So social network is important. You know, I'm a cardiologist. Number one line budget item currently on CMS is heart failure, right? In the last 20 years, we've come up with all kinds of fantastic technologies. Even in Atlanta, CardioMEMS, you put this device into the heart, figure out this great data. We have not moved the needle on heart failure readmissions that much, right? Because where's my heart failure patients coming from? They're in churches in South Georgia with hypertension's out of control, but we're not reaching them, right? So how are you going to do that? You can have all the great technologies, not going to get to those people. So you got to take this stuff to the social network, to where they live, where they work, in their schools, in their churches, in their mosques, in their temples, and that's what you need to do. And that's why this is three-part. So I'll tell you a lot about what we're doing. We're doing a tremendous amount of integrated video visits. In Northern California, it went from 2009 about, I think we're up to, in 2013, up to 7 million visits, virtual, right? There's a lot of stuff going on, online physical therapy, teledermatology, telebehavioral health, telehealth urgent care. These are, so urgent care again. So instead of you going to Minute Clinic could come to you in many ways. So that's there. And then there's a lot of pilots. I think the video isn't running, but there's virtual echo and there's cardiac rehab, virtual cardiac rehab. So again, patients who have a hard time getting to you for cardiac rehab, it's essential to prevent MIs. You go to them, and it takes care of the situation. I don't have many slides, and I didn't want to spend a lot of time on the doodads of Kaiser's doing. We're doing a lot of it because our model makes sense for us to do that. I don't want to show a lot of things, but if I can just leave you with those three messages, it has to be going to them, it has to be population, it has to involve their social structures, because if it doesn't do that, no matter how cool the technology, it's not going to work. Thank you.
All right, my name is Fuad Habash. I'm a graduate of University of Jordan, and I'm currently doing cardiology training at the University of Arkansas. Thank you, Dr. Latou, for inviting me. Today I'll be talking about my website. It's called Dr. Jamal's USMLE Notes and Match Guide. That's my dad's name. He's not a doctor, but I probably made him a doctor just by doing this website under his name. I'll tell you the story. So, one of my friends was studying for the medical exams to become a doctor in the United States. And they were running late in studying, and they were like, I need some help. I said, okay, I can probably help you. So I gave them my notes that I've been writing during my studying period of time. And then, thank God, they passed the exam. And my friend said, I like the way you write your notes. As it was helpful to me, I think it will also be helpful to other students around the world. And this is how it started. It was a small idea, and then someone convinced me to do it. So I thought of putting my notes together. The way I wrote them was straightforward, single sentences, and go straight to the point. And I went ahead and shared it on the biggest population of Earth, Facebook. And this is how I looked a couple of days afterwards, because I've been receiving 10 to 20 messages every day, asking me questions, share your notes, share your ideas, help me, go here, there, and everywhere. And I thought that this is not sustainable. So next step is the idea of how to make that available to everyone. How can I answer those simple questions without anyone, talking to me or so? They can have all those answers online. So I made my own website. And this is how it started. So my website contains the USMLE notes, things to guide medical students on how to do in their exams. Things that will help them remember high-yield ideas or highly questioned topics. And then I said, how about I mix some more non-medical stuff? So I started my own blog, where I have ideas, articles, things that are not related to studying, but for example, how much does it cost to come to the States? How do I fail in my exams so that they don't do it? How do I prepare for examinations, interviews, etc.? And I have a couple of other people helping me write some articles in this blog. And then I said, okay, some people might have some questions that are not found on my website. So I created a live chat where I can literally put it on my device, and anyone who's on my website can send me a message and I can answer them. And then I found that it's not just the exams that brings an obstacle to a medical student who wants to come to the States. It's also the personal statement and resumes. I discovered that a lot of students don't know how to write their personal statements, and it would be terrible to send it to a program director. So I started offering medical students from around the world to review their personal statements and give them ideas how to improve it, and actually do some editing for it. And same thing goes for interviews, where I have a platform where a student and I can do like a rehearsal for their interview, where I'll be asking them questions, seeing how they respond. and I will tell them how to improve that. This is how my website looks like: integrative, images, blogs. You can just go and spend hours in there. Where am I right now? This idea started 4 years ago. I just graduated from medical school, and I was planning to hit the US for my residency. And I was working by myself. I've done all of this by myself: the videos, the images, the content. I answer all the questions. Now I have a YouTube channel where I have started doing videos teaching medical students basic EKG reading, some ICU material. And this has been going on just for the last 6 months. I currently have more than 20 videos. And all of those videos are just for 5 minutes. I don't want it more than that because it gets boring and people will be sleeping. So just 5 minutes and you will learn what you need about that certain rhythm or that certain technique. I also have Facebook groups where students from around the world can discuss, ask questions, and I've invited some of my colleagues to be part of those groups and share their ideas. And last but not least, the Instagram. And where am I going from now? It's really difficult to run this whole thing by myself.
When you send them to me, to send to other people to help them out. So congratulations, and that's great. And I think the next step should be just to maybe look for funding or something so that you can expand and you can hire someone and you can make this, and this could be like the Jordanian version of the Khan Academy. So I think that this is something that I would personally love to help out if you want.
Thank you very much.
You know, Fuad, one of the things I want to make a really little comments, and we're talking earlier today, without end in sight, you need to put objectives to this road. And with these objectives, it gives you more definition of where I'm going with this. Is it a hobby? Is it a passion? A hobby, passion, it will get diluted over the time and will be, taken away if it's something that have to be funded or sold out or business. So that's really makes a big difference.
This is a question to Dr. Al-Ragib and Dr. Pandya. Kaiser Permanente is doing a lot of telemedicine and telehealth and recording a lot of video signals on patients. Dr. Al-Ragib is expert in understanding video signaling. Is there an opportunity to tie what Dr. Ghassan, and pardon me for saying this, Ghassan, he's truly a world leader in his field. If you look at his CV, he is chairing multiple committees on a national and international levels. This gentleman is on top of his game. Kaiser Permanente and on its top of its game in telehealth. Is there an opportunity where a joint research project could happen between Kaiser Permanente and Georgia Tech and Professor Al-Ragib?
To me, the short answer is absolutely yes.
Absolutely. I mean, I think we've all understood today that it's signal processing, right? We have a lot of data, but not information, right? So information is something that you can do something with. As clinicians, we are flooded with data, and we need signal processing. We need ways to move the needle so it makes a difference for the people we serve. So without a doubt, I mean, that the answer is yes.
Yeah, the short answer is absolutely yes, and that's what we have been really kind of advocating. All those, like, this is just one example where they have lots of data, and there is historical data. So there's a lot to learn from. Not only data like on the video side, but also the diagnosis side, the doctors basically knows. And those are very, very helpful. So we are very hungry for more data. And once we have access, we'll do.
What would you do with that data? And that's really one of the questions earlier that I have. We talked all morning, all day. We're getting data, we're getting data, we're getting data. But the data, if it does not do anything for us later on, processing the data and what we're going to do with it. And that is really the key. I mean, we're talking about a lot of data, and from the cardiology standpoint, it tells you that didn't even move the process along the way. So is it the data that we're after and all the technology and the money that's been behind it, or what we're going to do with that data, and what data is important to us? What data is important to us? To reduce the amount of medicine that's being prescribed, or to modify or increase the age or the behavior, or what data? We're just talking about data. And all I heard all day today, artificial intelligence, we're collecting stuff. Well, I'm looking in there. That's great. I've got this research. I've got this. Okay, what am I going to do with it? We haven't. Nobody told us what we're doing with it or what we've done with it in the past.
Yeah, I think that's the problem with looking at this whole artificial intelligence in a very simplistic way. So data is your first step. What you do with the data, I think it has to come from the domain experts. For example, in oil companies, usually after they get the data from the field, they process it. Just imagine, and if you use Amazon Cloud, and you just one run on the data collected, it will cost basically north of $3 to $4 million, just one run. So after like $20, $30 million of processing on the cloud, they create this kind of a subservice volume. And then they give it to a team of 30 PhDs in geophysics and geology. And they spend 9 months to make a decision about drilling. What we could do, what we really managed to do, reduce that from 9 months to between 3 and 4 months. And look at basically how much of saving that can happen to such a business model. The same thing in here, and I think it has to come from medical. That's what my message is. The medical doctors, the domain experts, they are the ones who should really tell us basically how we can really help them do their job better. Dr. Khalifa in Grady, he came to me 3 years ago and he said, he gave me a tour of the eye clinic in Grady Hospital. He said, okay, here's the tour. Here is the process we do for every patient coming. And we just sat down basically for a few months to really nail down basically where the deficiencies are and if real machine learning can help. And we started identifying and solving each one of them. But he was the one who really kind of made the first step. And I think that's really my recommendation. You don't really want to wait for the Google and the Facebook and the Microsoft to tell you basically how it can this impact, because I think it has to come from the doctor themselves to make it really more effective. Data is there. I mean, either you own it or not. The data is there. What you do with the data is really up to basically people like us and people who really own the data. And if you can tell us basically what you want from the data, we'll deliver. We have the math, we have the algorithm, we have the power, computational power. So if you give us the data.
So if I can interject to that one.
Yes.
When a patient comes to you, at what stage are you seeing the patient? They have a problem. You have
In the end, well, I mean,
Yes.
basically they go through my
data
my
is very
verification.
powerful if you baseline it and then as a process. So to prevent, to do identification of high-risk patient, if you have prior data, is very important for identifying these high risk. And so then you do preventive instead of coming with you with a problem. So you.
But this is the ideal, just like what Ghassan's saying. It could be a snow, could be a glare. When it comes into asking for data, it's fascinating how hard it is to identify the data you want, what's behind it, how much it takes to get the tools behind it and the technology behind it. It's not that cheap.
Information different than data.
Yes, exactly.
So I think one of the things is, one is technology, one is signal processing, which is what he's talking, taking data, making information. But I'm telling you guys, I think it's delivering it in a system. So I'll tell you, one of the biggest successes we've had in Georgia at Kaiser is this. It's not all the strength we put in. It's not all the fantastic bypass reduction with tooth dust, although it's great. What it is we have 50 offices, say. And we have dermatologists, we have plastic surgeons, we have all these different specialists, right? There are members, we have 375,000 lives we cover in Atlanta. Now, this patient who only comes to see a dermatologist, right? But he has hypertension. Used to be that person would have, the dermatologist never even check the blood pressure. Now, anytime they come, any office they touch, they get a blood pressure check. Then when they see the blood pressure is this high, based on an algorithm, they don't have to go see a doctor. The nurse practitioner just puts in the order for second blood pressure is high, they get medication, and blood pressure is controlled. The way you control population health is preventing heart attacks by controlling blood pressure, right? It's one of the number one causes of heart. So how do you control blood pressure? It's setting up a system where everybody touches and owns it, not because I make money off it, RVUs, whatever, or I have technology that processes it, but it's a system, right? So even if it's a plastic surgeon, he never has to touch it. The nurse gets a blood pressure, and the patient goes down a pathway, which is proven, and blood pressure gets controlled. So it's not just the tech, it's how you deliver it, how you set up the system. It's critical. The problem we face in America a lot of times is the system is so
backwards, because incentives are set up sometimes flipped, that it's very hard to do it, right?
And it is a very effective and successful event. And I will ask my dear colleague, Professor Labib, to close.
I have no further comments. Dr. Omar Latouf did a great job, and we are very happy, all happy to be here. So thank you for your service.
Thank you all very much.